Hello friend. I want to tell you about the Citroen C4 car. The body of the new C4 has grown slightly in every direction, and the good news is that boot capacity has also increased from the previously modest 320 liters to a still average for class 408 liters. In reality, the boot is not small. There hasn't been much extra space inside. The C4 is still not a very spacious car and can be designed to transport a maximum of 4 people, but only 2 adults will be able to travel comfortably. The car's suspension was not revolutionary. The C4-2 has a McPherson strut at the front and a torsion beam at the rear. The drive is always transmitted to the front wheels, and the power is generated by 4-cylinder engines, which were joined in 2014 by a 3-cylinder petrol engine. In 2015, the car underwent a minor facelift. Engines. Citroen did not go for powerful engines, which was never the domain of this model. The predecessor still had a fairly dynamic, naturally aspirated 2.0 generating 180 hydrogen phosphide, while the new generation boasts a maximum power of 156 HP. In the family of diesel engines, next to the battle-proven powerful 2.0 HDI diesel, 150 hydrogen phosphide, the well-known but modernized 1.6 HDI with power of 92, 99, 100, 112, 114, 120 HP was also retained. Today, the car is offered only with a smaller 1.6 HDI diesel with power of 100 or 120 HP. The petrol units are designs that have passed from the predecessor, created together with BMW and generally improved. Designated as VTI, the naturally aspirated engines have a capacity of 1.4 and 1.6 liters. Power is 95 and 120 horsepower respectively. These engines were withdrawn from the offer in 2014, similarly to the supercharged 1.6 THP with 156 HP. In the petrol range, only the well-known 1.2 PureTech engine with turbocharging and 110 or 130 HP remained. Recommended petrol engine. The naturally aspirated 1.6 VTI or the supercharged 1.2 PureTech are the best choices. Recommended diesel engine. 1.6 HDI engine of any power. It is very economical, sufficiently durable and reliable, and unlike 2.0 HDI cheaper to repair. What's broken? It's hard to answer this question unequivocally, because the car is still a fresh offer on the secondary market. Moreover, Citroen customers have already accustomed us to the fact that they drive less than customers of workhorses such as Toyota or Skoda, although in the case of this model a lot has changed. So it's hard to determine any typical faults for the new C4, but of course it's not like we don't know anything. At the moment, you can't complain about the quality of the interior and bodywork, which doesn't rust. The same can be said about the load-bearing elements or the exhaust system. The suspension works great, because the second-generation C4 doesn't make noise from the rear axle like its predecessor. Importantly, the car is still cheap to service in this respect. You can replace just the wishbone pins. By the way, you buy the wishbones without the pins anyway. There is also no problem finding replacements. There is also the issue of electrics, which, as befits a typical Frenchman, must fail. It must be noted right away that most problems are minor, so you should not be afraid of this car. A large part of the failures also concern cars with diesel engines, and specifically with the exhaust gas cleaning system. Unfortunately, equipment failures, including window and lock controllers, also happen. But here at least Citroen has maintained a constant level for a dozen or so years. In richly equipped models, the navigation or the better radio fail. There is generally no tragedy in terms of electrics, but if there are already problems in such young cars, what will happen in a few years? Now let's move on to engines. Petrol VTI engines have their own problems with timing, more so 1.6, but they have been improved a bit. The timing chain tensioner may have leaks, which results in its poorer performance. If neglected, it will eventually cause problems. Oil leaks also occur in other places in the engine. Ignition coils fail quite often. But the biggest operational inconvenience of the Citroen C4 with the VTI unit is actually the lack of a sixth gear. Should these engines be avoided? No, but before buying it is worth checking the critical points, i.e. the timing drive, carefully, and the entire engine for leaks. You have to approach copies with warning messages on the dashboard with caution. The THP engine is powerful and encouraging, and in the new C4 it is already free of some problems, such as excessive oil consumption or faulty timing drive. However, it is worth checking these areas more often, because they are still sensitive areas. The Citroen C4 with this unit is an interesting car, but it is not easy to find such a specimen. If you intend to drive it dynamically, consider replacing the shock absorbers with sports ones. Now diesels. Of course, the Royal 2.0 HDI is all honey and raspberries, but you have to be aware of the potentially high costs. They concern repairs to the exhaust gas cleaning system or the injection system. Don't worry about the dual mass flywheel, because it's not expensive. It's better to check the engine for oil and fuel leaks from the injectors. As with the 1.6 THP engine, it's not a popular drive unit in this model. The 1.6 HDI is definitely easier to find. Not as durable as its bigger brother, but cheaper to repair. There is no shortage of replacement parts. Newer HDI units have an SCR nitrogen oxide filter, which requires AdBlue fluid top-ups. The particulate filter, on the other hand, requires Eolys fluid. Unfortunately, problems with the exhaust gas cleaning system are not uncommon in this model, especially in HDI engines, and you need to diagnose the fault well and determine the cause so as not to expose yourself to high costs. There is nothing to write about the 1.2 Pure Tech engine for now. It is a very young unit that currently does not show any major problems. It is economical and, contrary to appearances, dynamic, which makes it a worthy successor to the VTI engines, while at the same time constituting a compromise between the 1.6 VTI and the 1.6 THP. Operating costs, prices and availability of spare parts. Citroen is an average compact also in maintenance costs. The advantage of this model is that it is free of very expensive to repair defects, such as VW Group cars from the same period, TSI engines. Even if something breaks, there is no tragedy with repair, because there is no shortage of specialists for French cars. On the other hand, users complain a lot about authorized services and their approach to the customer. Parts in the form of substitutes are already appearing on the market, and what is expensive can be bought. There is also no problem with obtaining consumable parts, but not everything is. There are few atypical things, and such include, for example, brake discs for the rear axle, which are integrated with the wheel bearing. Their replacement is quite expensive. Absolutely, it's still the same Citroen C4 as its predecessor, cheaper than the competition, which is no longer as strong when you buy a used car. A bit more prone to failures, but without any unpleasant defects that ruin the budget. It does lose a lot of value, but committing to this model for a longer period of time is a good idea. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I didn't mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.